Kansas City Chiefs have gone out and found themselves a new defensive end, and I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out. I am of two different minds on this scenario. So, this is a low investment, high reward potential opportunity for the Kansas City Chiefs, but we're going to get into that in just one moment. Real quick, guys, if you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting a like button really does do me a lot of good here because it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you are a Chiefs fan yourself, finding yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about here, so consider hitting the subscribe button. Now, here's the thing. Who is Cam Thomas? A third-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals in 2022. He goes 6'4" and 1/8", so he is a true 6'4", and we'll get into that in a moment. 267 pounds, 32.5-inch arms, 10.25-inch hands, 24 reps on the bench press with 225 pounds, and a 33.5-inch vert. So when you're looking at all of these numbers, they're kind of standard. There's nothing here that really stands out as saying, wow, that is an eye-popping number. That is something that can't go overlooked. However, if you remember that draft, every year there are players who end up skyrocketing up the boards prior to the draft. Prior to the 2022 draft, Cam Thomas was sort of one of these guys that people thought, well, he's a late round draft pick, et cetera, et cetera. Leading up to the draft, a couple months before, he started getting a lot more chatter around him, and it even culminated in something like this. I got this quote here from NFL Draft Buzz, which is not the most reputable source, but they've usually got their finger on the pulse of at least the buzz around the draft. Haha. Cameron Thomas is rocketing up draft boards at the moment, and with good reason. He's athletic with an incredible set of pass rushing that scare offensive linemen. Pass rushing moves, I'm assuming, that scare offensive linemen. He has no major weakness to his game that can't be worked out, and therefore we're very high on him. His ceiling is at the all-pro / Pro Bowler level, with his floor a solid NFL starter. To us, he looks bust-proof. Cameron Thomas is worthy of a late first-round selection in the 2022 NFL Draft and should be considered as almost in the same class as Thibodeaux, Hutchinson, and Karlaftis. So, I think it's fair to go ahead and go out there and say that assessment probably off the mark. We'll get into a little bit of his playing time and stats later in this video, but to have assumed that Cam Thomas was going to be an all-pro / Pro Bowl type guy, it seems to be a mistake. That said, he is the same guy. He has all of those traits that led people to believe that was who he was going to be. Not who he has ended up being, but there is always the potential that it was something there. And I'll get back to this idea later because I don't understand. But just as comparison's sake, George Karlaftis is 6'3" and 3/4 inches tall. Mike Dana 6'2", Felix Anudike-Uzomah 6'3" and 1/8", and Malik Herring is 6'3", meaning that automatically, besides Charles Omenihu, who will start the season on the PUP list, Cam Thomas is the tallest of the defensive ends. George Karlaftis came into the league at 266. I believe he's 270 now. Mike Dana, 257. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, 255. And Malik Herring, 275. So automatically, I believe Cam Thomas is the second heaviest defensive end on the roster. And as far as the arm length is concerned, his arms are slightly shorter than George Karlaftis and about an inch shorter than Felix Anudike-Uzomah's. So the athlete that he is pretty standard here. Now, George Karlaftis, for example, has an eye-popping stat. He has a 38-inch vertical on a guy that's 266 pounds, that's a pretty good explosive number. However, George Karlaftis did 21 reps on the bench press compared to Cam Thomas's 24. So there's a little bit of give and take between those two athletes. But when you're comparing a guy to the athletes on the roster at a position, and the most readily available comparison is your number one guy at the position, George Karlaftis, to compare physically to Cam Thomas, that's a good sign. So what is going on here? What did the Chiefs have to do? They traded a 7th-round pick to the Cardinals in order to get Cam Thomas. Now, the Chiefs are dead last on the waiver wire, so even if they believed that Cam Thomas was likely to get cut by the Arizona Cardinals, someone would have claimed him in those other 30 teams, right? So not withholding the Cardinals, they're not going to cut him and then claim him, and then the Chiefs are the 32nd team. That means there are 30 other teams that had the opportunity to put in a waiver wire claim on Cam Thomas. Someone definitely would have done that. That is part of the sort of difficulty. You are picking 32nd when you win the Super Bowl. They've done that 2 years in a row now. Makes the draft very difficult. You are 32nd in the waiver wire when that happens. Makes it very difficult there as well. In fact, the last time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, it was a little bit so. Winning the Super Bowl was harder on the waiver wire than the NFL draft because remember, the Dolphins forfeited their first-round pick. So the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and picked 31st. They were still 32nd on the waiver wire. So the Chiefs, even if they thought that the Cardinals were going to cut him, if they wanted him, they had to give something up in order to get him. The Chiefs, I believe at this point, are projected to have 10 picks in this upcoming draft, 3 or 4 of those as 7th-rounders. Willie Gay is likely to net the Kansas City Chiefs a compensatory pick, and someone else that I am blanking on right now is likely to net the Kansas City Chiefs a compensatory pick as well. But there are the Amir Smith-Marset trade, I believe, comes to fruition this season, and then the Chiefs have an extra 3rd-rounder from the L'Jarius Sneed trade. So they are loaded in this upcoming draft. It is a very low investment to go out and get a guy that you think is going to make your rotation, and that you think is going to make your rotation, frankly, better. So here's the next thing worth talking about here. It appears to me that Truman Jones would have been the 5th defensive end on this roster. George Karlaftis is your number 1 guy at the position, Mike Danna number 2. I don't know that I would put Felix Anudike-Uzomah in the 3rd spot from what we've seen, but we will go ahead and grant him that here. Malik Herring number 4. That would have left Truman Jones at the number 5 spot. This automatically means that what you're doing is bringing someone in to knock off that 5th name. However, Cam Thomas being on the roster knocks off Truman Jones, likely. I don't know that Truman Jones, or the number 5 spot, is who he will be replacing in the in the order, in the rotation order. Here's why. Last season, George Karlaftis had the most snaps of any defensive end on the roster with 755. Right on his tail was Mike Danna with 745. Those are the first 2 names there. In order to get to the 3rd defensive end listed in the rotation, you have to go all the way down to 404 reps, nearly half as many as those top 2 names, 404 reps from Charles Omenihu, who missed time last season with suspensions. The 4th defensive end in the rotation, listed defensive end, Felix Anudike-Uzomah with 218 snaps. The number 5 name, Malik Herring, with 163. In order to get to 6 defensive ends, you have to go all the way down to B.J. Thompson with 28 8, and that is the final defensive end listed in the rotation for the entire season. Part of what happened there was Chris Jones and Tershawn Wharton got reps at the defensive end position. Here's what I question. Your number 5 name in the rotation, Malik Herring, 163 snaps. Ostensibly, you were bringing in Cam Thomas to be the number 5 name in this rotation. Brett Veach, he of incredible future-oriented mindset, traded a 7th-round pick. Basically, 4 years of control for a player, but 5 years because it's not going to be a pick until next season. You're looking at 5 years of potential for next year's 7th-round pick. You're sacrificing that for a guy who's going to come in this year and get 163 reps. I'm not sure about that. 163 reps, number 5 on the list, Malik Herring. 218 reps, number 4 on the list, Felix Henrique-Uzomah. Where does Cam Thomas factor in to this rotation? I don't know if you make that trade for a guy who's going to play 150-ish snaps this year. Finally, here's the kicker. Charles Omenihu is going to miss some amount of time this season. He's going to come back. He's likely, I think, to play about the same amount of football as he played last year, which means that he would retain his number 3 spot in that snap count rotation, 404, which would mean if Cam Thomas is going to be the 6th name on this rotation by the end of the year as far as snap counts are concerned, that puts him at B.J. Thompson's 28 snaps. I don't think they're trading a 7th-round pick, 5 years of potential for the remaining 2 years on Cam Thomas's contract in order for him to come in and get 28 snaps. I think this is not a good sign for Felix Henrique-Uzomah. Now, neither is it likely to be a good sign for Malik Herring. Malik Herring was a UDFA. Malik Herring has already outplayed what it was that could have ever been expected of him. Felix Henrique-Uzomah, last season's number 1 draft pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, is in a rough spot. Now, I was on the record saying that I thought FAU's ceiling was Mike Dana. I could still be absolutely 100,000% wrong. Maybe in year 2, FAU blows up and becomes a 10-sack guy. I would bet against it. I would never say it's impossible. Not at this point, not in year 2. I wouldn't say that it's impossible. We have seen him on a snap-by-snap basis be roughly as productive as Mike Dana in a stats per snap basis, but not in an impact per snap basis. So here's the thing. I believe we would consider Cam Thomas to have basically washed out in Arizona. Cam Thomas, I think we would consider to have busted in Arizona. As a rookie in 2022, Cam Thomas played more snaps than did FAU last season. In order for Cam Thomas to have played fewer snaps than FAU in his second season, FAU would have to basically double his snap count from his rookie season. He would have to basically double his snap count while facing increased competition at the position. Felix Henrique-Uzomah, in my opinion, is being shown that he has to shape up or he will be shipped out. And we have seen on roster cutdown day that can be very unceremonious. Now, talking about Cam Thomas. There are things, and I'm not going to sit here and claim to be some football guru. Sometimes, guys, I don't get it. As a rookie, Cam Thomas had 0 starts, 1 pass deflection, 3 sacks, 18 tackles, 6 quarterback hits, 7 pressures, all on 236 snaps, and 57 special team snaps. Okay, great. Not really what you want to see from your 3rd round pick, but okay. 3 sacks, you can live with that. In 2023, he added 33% playing time to 355 snaps. He added 3 starts to his resume versus 0 as a rookie. He ended up with the same 1 pass deflection. He ended up with 0 sacks in his 2nd season. He upped 4 tackles. He dropped from 6 quarterback hits to 1, from 7 pressures to 4. All of this on 33% more snaps, 355 as opposed to 236 his freshman or his rookie season, and he doubled his special teams play as a rookie. They said, "Man, we're not really going to do all that much to you. Worry about the playbook." His sophomore year, his sophomore campaign in the NFL, they said, "You're going to have to earn your keep." I don't understand it. I don't. Now, it's easy to say, well, I look at Sky Moore and I can see the routes that he can run. I can see his 40-yard dash time. I can see all of these things and not understand how he's not being productive. It's a little bit different when you're requiring someone else to get you the ball. A little bit. But I don't understand with Cam Thomas where things are breaking down. All of that hype leading up to his rookie season, all of that hype leading into the draft where he was selected that we read at the beginning, that wasn't just from one website. That was pretty universal. That was pretty universal praise and hype for Cam Thomas leading up to that draft. Now, I don't know how many people said, "Oh, we think he's going to be an all-pro." How many people said he's definitely on the George Karlaftis, Aiden Hutchinson level. He's definitely a guy that could be a first rounder. I don't know how many people were saying that. He had definitive hype. And then you can watch him on tape. You can pull up plays that he's made. And I'm not talking no one blocked him and he was straight to the quarterback. You still got to make the tackle, still got to make the sack, but he was straight to the quarterback. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about ripping double teams. I'm talking about stacking an offensive lineman and shedding in order to make a tackle in the backfield. I'm talking about pursuit angles. I'm talking about delayed blitz. Guys, legitimate football stuff Cam Thomas can do on the field. How he falls off from 3 sacks to 0 while getting 33% more snaps, I don't know. I really don't. A lot. So, and you listen to things coming out of Arizona, they kind of don't get this move either. They were of the opinion that, yeah, he's been a bit of a wash through 2 seasons, but he's on the up and up. He seems to be ascending this preseason. Now, one thing I'll put out there. You can find highlight videos of Cam Thomas. Pay attention to the players he's on the field with. Cam Thomas seems to be a preseason nightmare. He seems to be nightmare fuel if you're attempting to make the roster. He's very good against lower quality opponents. He's very good in the preseason taking on somebody's backups. Okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do. If you're the starter, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tear up in a preseason. If you're going up against somebody's backups, you're supposed to get the wins on a down-by-down basis. He seems to be doing that. So why isn't he getting his 50% wins versus the starters? Why isn't he getting on the field more than 355 snaps? In my journeys through this, in my research for this, I wasn't really able to put it together. If you know where things went wrong in Arizona, absolutely, 1,000%, tell me in the comments section. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm stupid. Tell me I missed it. I would love to know. I would love to not get disproportionately excited for a guy that's going to be the fifth defensive end on the Kansas City Chiefs. But as things stand right now, I don't think that's where Cam Thomas is going to be playing. I don't think Cam Thomas is getting 28 reps for the Chiefs this season like B.J. Thompson last year. I don't think Cam Thomas is getting 163 reps for the Kansas City Chiefs this season like Malik Herring did last year. I don't even know if Cam Thomas is only getting 218 reps like FAU got last season for the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems to me Cam Thomas plays the style of defensive end that Steve Spagnuolo loves. That's what it seems like to me. Maybe that was sort of the deal in Arizona. He didn't fit the scheme, whatever. I don't know how, but I'm not the X's and O's guy. That could be, and it could be, if that is the case, Steve Spagnuolo is able to assume this player and make him perform up to a level that play up to a level that garnered all of that hype leading into his draft. The last thing I want to leave you with here today. This is another moderately aggressive move, mortgaging the future, just a seventh round pick, but still, mortgaging the future in order to get a player with 2 years left on a rookie deal that might contribute now. It might be that Cam Thomas comes to Kansas City and he's the same Cam Thomas that existed in Arizona and didn't do anything, right? It might be. So it might be that you were mortgaging 5 years of potential. 2023, where you're not making the draft pick, 2024, where you're not making the draft pick, 2025, which is when the seventh round pick would be selected, and then the rest of that rookie contract. It might be that's a low price to pay, even for potential, even for something that might not ever happen. It's a low price to pay. But we have seen Brett Veach cash in seventh round picks. Jalen Watson, Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Johnson looks like he's going to do it. We have seen Brett Veach cash in seventh round picks and be very fruitful with them. I think they're going to get something out of Cam Thomas. I do. But it's still an aggressive move. The Chiefs seem to understand the weight of the history in front of them. If they can get someone who's going to make that sled easier to pull, they're going to do it. That's why you end up seeing Juju Smith-Schuster brought back to Kansas City. That's why you end up seeing a seventh-round pick traded for a guy like we talked about yesterday in yesterday's video about Juju Smith-Schuster. Go ahead and check it out if you don't believe me. We talked about them trading for a defensive end. We talked about them acquiring another defensive end. So that, it seems to me, is the truth behind the Kansas City Chiefs truly treating this unlike a regular run-of-the-mill season. The Chiefs know the weight on this year. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. I will be back tomorrow with talk on the final 53. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.